United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. There is no fear. There.
Welcome to this week's episode of Winning Streak Weekly. I'm your host, Jason Nall. Glad to be with you again this week to talk about all things sports through the lens of sports gambling. We'll be joined by our producer extraordinaire, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Badlands Brandon, who is also our contributor this week as we talk through early summer sports. You know, we've got the NBA playoffs rocking and rolling deep into round two. We've got the Stanley Cup playoffs now into round two with some pretty startling results so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Major League Baseball humping through their first third of the season. Everything's cooking. Got golf on the horizon. An early major with the PGA Championship coming up soon, which we will break down next week. Kentucky Derby in our rear view mirror. No big winning tickets from Big Daddy C or Badlands Brandon or your host on the Kentucky Derby. We'll talk about how we messed that one up. And you know, just a good time. Lots of stuff going on. Let's bring in Badlands Brandon and get caught up with him. Badlands, what's going on in your world, man?
Like you said, I was really hoping to cash a ticket in that Kentucky Derby. Didn't take a whole outright favorite, but somebody that I had liked. He ran good. 3/4 of the race, got to the back stretch and just ran out of gas. So that was a loser for me. So now I've kind of turned my attention off that and back to the NBA playoffs. The way that I like to bet the NBA, a lot of people will go with the opening line. I figured out that I have much better luck if I play the end game line. So that's what I've been doing. Some small wins, but nothing too major yet.
No, the end game is really good for the NBA. I can't think of another sport that it's better for. I mean, just because there's so much ebb and flow in an NBA game, and you can take advantage of really when one team's behind, expecting them to come back, or you know, over under if it's off pace and the over under has come down a little bit, maybe you think they're going to pick up the scoring, or vice versa. If they're scoring at, in buckets to start the game, you think maybe it'll revert back to the mean and the scoring will slow down. So yeah, I'm with you on the end game. If for our listeners out there, I know most of our listeners are very familiar with sports gambling, but that's something new in the last 5 years. Just like Badlands Brandon, he's a new guy. He's a new gambler. He's fresh, still wet behind the ears. But that's the kind of perspective we get from a new gambler. Is talking about in-game wagering. And you know, most of my first 30 years of gambling, if you didn't get it in before tip off, you just found something else to watch because you weren't going to be able to bet that game. But with the advent of the sports betting apps, now you can bet it, you know, basically after every bucket, after every pitch in baseball, after every play in football. It's just a totally different game. And if you're watching the games closely, you can find some great opportunities. So, did you play anything in game in the Wednesday night games, Knicks and Golden State?
I did. I did take one. I think it was the other night in the Denver game. I took an in-game line right at the very end and actually got it home. So that was a refreshing change of pace. And that's the other thing I like too about you were talking about in-game line. The over/under totals are really, I like to play them when it's late in the fourth quarter. You've got 3 or 4 minutes left because usually that's when a lot of scoring happens, especially if it's a close game. So that's another good thing. And I was actually able to cash that ticket on that. So that was actually a good hit for me.
Well, the last time we were together over at Southland Casino and Sportsbook in West Memphis, I remember you went and got an over under on whatever NBA first round game was going that night. I can't remember the game. At the start of the fourth quarter, we had a hell of a sweat and a couple beers there in the fourth quarter trying to get that thing over. I think we missed it by a point or something, right? Missed free throws
Yeah,
at the end.
yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was
so you can bet them late.
yeah, yeah. We dropped that one, and that was a soul crusher for us. We were sitting there pounding beers trying to get that game up, and it just wouldn't happen for us. It was a letdown for us, but that's how I like to bet them. So
Yeah, so last night was game 5 of Knicks and Heat series, and I know you have an opinion on this series. We'll get that to you here in a minute, but I had the Knicks to win the series. I bet them when they were down 1-0 at plus 140. Well, now they're down 3-1, or they were going into last night, and I'd lost all faith in that. So me being as crazy as I typically am, thought surely the Knicks can win one game for me at home and make this series go to 3-2. If I bet the amount, which is 2 units that I put on the series bet on them on the money line on the Knicks last night, if they win that game, at least I cover my series bet, and then I get 2 games to watch and hope they can come from behind and pull out a miraculous series win. Well, it worked out for me. They won, and so I covered the cost of my series bet with Knicks minus 155 on the money line last night. Now, that sounds great and it worked out great for me, but had they lost, I would have lost the series bet plus 2 units at minus 155 would have been $310 bet there on that. So, they had to win for me last night to get out of that thing alive. I did get out of it alive. So I don't expect them to win the series, and I know that you don't want them to win the series because you've got futures bets on Miami, right?
yeah, and I watched a good portion of the Miami game last night, and I don't think Miami looked particularly good last night. Don't think they shot the ball well at all. Had too many missed opportunities with layups and things like that. And Julius Randle played an absolute gem of a game for New York last night. Um, really showed out in that game, I thought, and did what he had to do. And they had the home crowd behind him, and I think that really helped propel them to a win. But yeah, definitely don't want to see New York even this thing up at 3-3 or even win the thing at 4-3 because, as you so eloquently alluded to, I do have a futures bet with the Miami Heat, and that is to win the East outright. Um, so I took that one after I won a little bit of money in the Miami Milwaukee series. So I decided to take those couple of units and throw it back into a futures bet, paying 8-1. So we're going to need to get those Heat up to finish the Knicks off and to get them up to finish off either the 76ers or the Celtics.
All right, I'm down with you. I understand what you need. I need just the opposite on both series. So it's good versus evil here. I'm good, you're evil. But we'll get to that in a minute when we cover the NBA playoffs here a little bit later on in the program. Uh, let's wrap up before we go to break. We're going to come back and do our first segment, good, bad, and ugly, with a little Major League Baseball flair. But let's put a bow on the Kentucky Derby. Um, so I had Derma Sotogake, the 17 horse, and I made my case last week for Derma Sotogake. One, you shouldn't have listened to me because I told you in my spiel that the 17 box had never won the Kentucky Derby, and that continues on. So that was enough reason to throw out my horse. But when it came time to open the gate, and Derma Sotogake, the Japanese horse who won the Saudi Stakes, got a lot of action. Went off 8-1. He wasn't a long shot by any means. He was probably third or fourth choice. Turned completely sideways, missed his break absolutely, and got out in the last 3 to 4 horses of the race when he's a speed horse. Comes back, runs a decent race, runs sixth, but I knew I never had a chance the whole race. I mean, my race was over when they opened the gate, so I was done. Big Daddy C, he had the one that ran third. What was that horse's name? He almost got there. Angel of Empire. Big Daddy C, he had the biggest sweat of the three of us, even though he had the favorite. Angel of Empire, he played first and second, and he couldn't catch Two Fields. So I talked about Two Fields. That would have been a great one to play just in the name, the Two Phil Mickelsons, the one that the fans all love for his first 30 years of his career, and now the bad Phil that's over in the Saudi tour playing golf for money now, just money. That's the Two Fields. I made that case, and he ran second. But Mage, the winner, the only person I know that had Mage was my mother-in-law, who told me to put $5 on two different horses, and one of them she gave me was Mage. Of course, I didn't do it. I figured there's no way the horse would win. Now I got to come up with $81 to give my damn mother-in-law because the Mage won. But that was my Kentucky Derby. Tell me about how your played out, Badlands.
After Forte decided to drop out, who was probably one I was going to play, he had a bruised right hoof, and they pulled him. I went ahead and put all my money on Kingsbarn. Really liked him, liked how he had run in his previous races. Thought he might have a good, legitimate shot at pulling it out. I think he was going off at 5-1 or 6-1, somewhere around there. Had a really good break coming out of the gate. Got mixed in with the pack. I think he was sitting in about the 8th or 9th position most of the race, and then I don't know if maybe he just turned him loose a little bit early, trying to get him in a better position, get him off the rail, maybe to find an opening that he could make a late push. But I think he burned up a lot of his energy that he had. By the time I think they got to the final turn, I think he was in third when they came around the turn, and then once the cavalry charge came, he just started fading back. I think he just burnt whatever energy he had just a little bit early, trying to get him in position. So my play was a dead play as soon as that final turn, because I saw him start dropping back, and I knew right then he wasn't going to get it. So that's how my Kentucky Derby ended up.
Yeah, so I mean, into the far turn, Verifying had the lead. Kingsbarn just outside of him, and Two Fields really in the kind of in the hold position in the fourth spot. And yeah, I mean, it looked like Kingsbarn was in a great spot and just didn't have anything left. But again, when you're in a 20 horse field and you're trying to get up near the lead, it burns a certain amount of energy just to get out of that gate and get around the front to have running room early, and that's what happened to Kingsbarn, I guess. Verifying too, straight to the front and then faded off the ticket. But let me go over the ticket prices here. If you were lucky enough to pick this Kentucky Derby, Mage went off 15-1, paid you $32.42 to win on every $2 ticket. Um, the trifecta bet with Mage, Two Fields, and Angel of Empire, the $1 trifecta payout, a nice little package, $9.82 and 36 cents. And then if you pick the super with Disarm and fourth, the dollar super, 15,643. So if you were good enough to pick it, certainly another good payout on the exotics for the Kentucky Derby. Normally, you don't get those kind of payouts in the Preakness and the Belmont, the other two legs of the Triple Crown, just because there's not as many horses, and you have a little more understanding of these horses after having run the Derby, and so Mage will now go for the Triple Crown, be in the Preakness not this weekend but next, and be the heavy favorite, not 15-1 like Mage was in the Kentucky Derby. Quickly before we move on from that, Badlands, do you think Mage is the kind of horse that can come right back? The Preakness is maybe an eighth of a mile shorter than the Kentucky Derby. Mage came from off the pace. Is this something that's going to hinder Mage in trying to complete the Triple Crown this shorter race?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to phase her too bad. Phase him too bad at all. I was looking. We were talking just before we jumped on the program. I was scrolling through doing some research on Mage and found out that Mage's sire was Big Brown, and his dame
Big Brown.
on the other side was Curlin, who was also a very really good racehorse. So the pedigree is definitely there for Mage. So you know what, I'll just put it out there and say that Mage finds a way and gets the win in the Preakness. But usually, that second one, sometimes you can get it easy, but you've always got to sweat that third one. But I like her. I like her in the Preakness. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Big Brown, the sire there, was certainly able to get that second leg in the Preakness. And one of the biggest upsets I remember in horse racing was Big Brown losing in that Belmont Stakes, because Big Brown, to that point, had looked like the proverbial man of war. But yeah, Big Brown, Curlin, certainly the pedigree of a champion right there. And we'll see. We'll see. I hope Mage does win the Preakness, because it certainly makes the Belmont more fun when there is a Triple Crown at stake. That'll be coming up next week. Right now, I believe we scanned it. There's only 3 horses who ran in the Derby that are in the Preakness. So there's 8 new horses that we'll have to do our research on and come up with some picks for the Preakness Stakes next week for our podcast listeners. We're going to grab a quick break. You have caught Winning Streak Weekly, the podcast about sports betting. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's Winning Streak Weekly, and where we are just looking to start that next winning streak. We could not start it with the Kentucky Derby. Big Daddy C, he missed his pick, and I missed my pick on Dermot Sotaki, and then Badlands. Brandon, I don't know if you have put out an official pick or not, but we've already covered that you were not a big winner or a winner in the Kentucky Derby. So we'll move on to the next big thing, which will be the Preakness and horse racing next week. But right now, let's do a little bit of good, bad, and the ugly since we last met with the Major League Baseball flair. The good, let's just talk about the top of the AL and the top of the NL. In the AL, the Tampa Bay Rays fired out of the box, 13-0 to start the season. And then now they still are hot, and they still have an outstanding record and a big lead in a very competitive National League or American League East. They are 29-9 on the season. In the National League, chop, Atlanta Braves, and the Braves have found their footing again. It almost feels like the 90s where the Braves are rolling out a winner every year. Ronald Acuna back, the offense clicking. Maybe the best pitching staff in the National League, or at least the healthiest to this point. And the Braves out fast, 25-12 in the National League East, giving them a big old 6.5 game lead over the Marlins and a 7-game lead over the Phillies and the Mets. Badlands, which team's been more impressive to you, the Braves in the National League or the Rays in the American League?
I think I would just have to go out and go ahead and say I think the Braves impressed me more. This is a team that just shows just ridiculous consistency. And I was actually listening on ESPN the other day. The guy that was doing the program just said they find a way. They just find a way. They find a way to win series after series after series. And, when you have that and you have that ability to win series and win games and distance yourself from the rest of the teams in the National League, I think that speaks to a lot of your bullpen and your hitting and everything else. But they both impress me duly. And the reason that Tampa Bay impresses me is they have a OPS, I think it said, of 884. So that's on base plus slugging percentage, which tells me that those bats in Tampa Bay are red hot and they are on fire. Their offense looks really good. Their pitching looks good. I do think Atlanta has the slight edge in the pitching department, but both of them impressed me. And, the Braves dropped a soul crusher last night to Boston at home. But Boston is another team that I like in the AL. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and they're really coming along.
Well, the Braves, yes, did lose a soul crusher to Boston. And interesting enough, early in the season, we'll see how this fleshes out over the big 162 game baseball schedule. But the Braves are only 10-9 at home. Majority of their wins they're picking up away, 15-3 on the road. To me, that tells you about pitching. You've got to have good pitching to win on the road. But 10-9 at home, just barely over 500 at home, picking up wins on the road. Can that hold up? I don't know. They're going to have to pick up that home schedule to keep this kind of lead over their foes in the NL East. The American League, it's the opposite story for the Rays. 19-3 at home, still a great road record of 10-6, but 19-3 at home. Rays virtually unbeatable early in the season down in Florida. I'll give an honorable mention here to the good in baseball too. I got to give it to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ahead of the NL Central, 21-17 on the year. Maybe between them and the National League and maybe the A's in the American League, they have the smallest payroll in baseball. So we better give our shout out to the Pirates now, Badlands, because I don't think they're going to be able to hold on over the entirety of a season.
No, I don't think they will either. But I'm like you. I'm happy for them that they've gotten where they are now and they're playing good. So we'll go ahead and give them an applause right now because, as you like to say, I think it's going to be somewhat short lived as the season continues on.
Yeah, let me just scan these standings. Maybe give you another honorable mention. The Dodgers kind of doing as expected out in the West, 23-15 start. Badlands said this wasn't the year for the Dodgers. And so I heard that and I immediately went and bought a ticket on the Dodgers to win the NL. So I figure he won't get his team right. You never do get your own team right. So I've got a ticket on the Dodgers to win the NL. So they're off to a good start out there. But we were talking about a little interesting tidbit, a little interesting Dodgers rumor mill, I guess you would say, involving the Angels and Shohei Ohtani. So, what are you hearing on this Shohei Ohtani deal to the Dodgers, Badlands?
Yeah, so I caught this morning as I was perusing the sports world this morning. And so Ohana is coming up for free agency here in just a little bit. And, being the guy that he is and with his power hitting and pitching, there's a lot of teams jockeying for him, but he has already gone on record with a source. They didn't name the source, but the source put it out. It said that he had talked to him, that he wants to stay West Coast. He doesn't want to make a move over to the East Coast. The Dodgers, who's pitching, starting pitching, I don't find to be much of a problem. It's their relief pitching. I figure that needs a lot of work. Have already expressed a lot of interest in him. I think he's asking for $300 million for his.
$300 million. If anybody deserves it, though, Badlands, let's say it's Shohei Ohtani, the modern day Babe Ruth. I'd watch him every night. And the good thing about being a pitcher and a batter, you can watch him every night.
Oh, and you absolutely can. But I don't think, there's some other teams. I know New York Mets have been mentioned. That's only because they've got the largest payroll in baseball right now. Chicago, the Cubs, Philadelphia have also expressed interest in him. But I think he's already made it more than clear that he doesn't want to make the move to the East Coast. He wants to stay West Coast. I think he likes his California lifestyle out there. So I'm going to say by probably at least the summer, maybe after the All-Star break, you're going to see Ohtani again, but you're going to see him in a Dodgers blue, representing the big blue out there in Los Angeles.
Well, it makes sense. I would think he is comfortable with the West Coast. Also, no disrespect to the Angels, but this guy's a generational player. If he's going to be on the West Coast, needs to play for the Dodgers at some point. And are you overpaying for the for maybe the next 10 years of his career when maybe we've already seen the best with a couple of Cy Youngs? And I don't know. I mean, most of the time you are, but he's still going to be a good investment just with the eyeballs that are on him, and to put him in a franchise like the Dodgers. I just think it's a win for both sides. And yes, I don't think the Angels are going to be able um, to ante up to re-sign Shohei Ohtani, and so yes, there could be a bidding war between the Mets and the Dodgers, but if the Dodgers get close, which they can if they want to, why wouldn't they want the modern day Babe Ruth? He's going to stay out west, and I think by the trade deadline, he will have switched leagues and be with the Dodgers. That's one of the reasons why I didn't bet Shohei Ohtani to win the MVP for the American League. I knew there was a chance he might get traded. Other than that, there was no stopping him from winning that MVP. The dude is unbelievable. Did you see him in that World Baseball Championship when he struck out Trout to end it? His teammate there?
Yeah,
That was freaking
I thought that was
great. Yeah. So anyway, that would be exciting for the Dodgers fans and for Badlands Brandon if they got Ohtani over there to bolster that pitching staff and give them some more pop in the bat as the rich get richer in LA. That is the good. The bad, let's talk about these St. Louis Cardinals, expected by many, mainly just off of pedigree, picked to win the National League Central, but they are off to a bad start. The Cardinals, dead last in the NL Central as we speak, 13-25 on the year, just 6 wins at home against 13 losses. Not much better on the road, 7 wins against 12 losses. Cardinals, I mean, it's early. They can turn it around, but they're in an 8-game deficit to the Pittsburgh Pirates, aforementioned Pittsburgh Pirates. More deadly than that, though, they're at 7.5 games back behind the Brewers and 4.5, 5.5 games behind the Cubs, who I expect those two to really be the ones slugging it out through the summer for the NL Central. Badlands, is this just a slow start, or is it going to be a lost year for the Cardinals fans?
I think it's going to be a lost year for the Cardinals fans because they have that. Not only do they have that going for them, but also this acquisition of Wilson Contreras that they made this past winter. Um, he has already indefinitely been sent. I know the manager has already said that Contreras is not going to be catching for them. And I think just a lot of different things going on right now. I think they thought that they were making a right move by taking Wilson Contreras and hoping that he could add some pop and everything to him, but that hasn't been the case for him. Just a lot going wrong in St. Louis right now. Their record and everything else just doesn't look good for them at all. So I would say that this is probably not going to be the year that the Cardinals want it.
I would agree with that, and that's good. I've got the Cubs to win that division and the Cubs to make the playoffs in preseason bet. So I like a down Cardinals team is one less obstacle my Cubs are going to have if they can get it going. Speaking of my Cubs, let me don't talk like they're great or anything. They're 18-19 right now in the season, hanging around 500. But again, Pirates leading the division with 21 wins. If you can hang around to the summer and find some magic, you can get that division. As long as the Cardinals are kept at bay. Badlands, when we get through the ugly here, I want to go through some of those updated win totals that we talked about. So have those handy for us. After we go through the ugly, we'll look at baseball and we'll go through the updated season win totals. And now for the ugly, it doesn't get any uglier than this. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago that Billy Beane was the toast of the town. Brad Pitt was making movies about the Oakland A's and Moneyball and their system of winning with a low budget by spreadsheets and analytics. If the A's ever won big with those spreadsheets and those analytics and Billy Beane, I must have slept right through it. I mean, it made for a pretty good movie, I guess. But that's about it because once again, the A's suck. But this time, Billy Bean is gone. He's no longer the GM for the A's. I don't know if they're still using the Moneyball system or not, but if it is, the Moneyball is broken because the A's not only have the worst record in baseball, they have the worst record I might have ever seen to start a season in baseball. 8-30, just winning at a 20% clip, already 15 games back of the Rangers, who lead the AL West. Home record, 3 wins on 15 losses. Away record, 5 wins on 15 losses. I mean, how do you get anybody to come to the stadium? How do you get anybody to tune in on TV? How are you able to do anything with a team that's this bad year in and year out, and you don't want to spend any money? The only solution to me, Badlands Brandon, do the same thing that the Raiders did. Load up the Oakland A's and move them to Las Vegas. It's another activity in Vegas. Even if they don't win, I imagine people will go see them just for something to do during the afternoon before they hit the tables. What do you think? Move the A's to Vegas? Is that the only thing that can happen right now to save this franchise?
Well, and as you were talking about that Vegas move, the only thought that popped into my head was the movie Major League. They wanted them to play bad enough they could move the franchise from Cleveland down to Miami, and I think that may be what they
That's
decided.
right.
Oakland, if we can get the attendance to fall below 800,000 for the year in Oakland, we could just up and move them to Vegas. But no, man, this is a dismal team right here, man. And you said it, ugly, ugly, ugly. But I tell you, the one stat that you didn't mention that me and you were talking about before we started the show, their run differential is negative 127.
Good God Almighty!
I mean, when you have a run
So that
differential,
means they're down 127 runs on the year already, huh?
yeah, I mean, this is horrible. I mean, and when I saw that, I was like, I mean, I've never seen a run differential of 127 ever. I mean, ever since I started watching baseball, I've never seen one that bad. But yeah,
All
there's
right,
nothing.
I'm going to set the over under on the season long run differential. Now that we're at 127, I'm going to set the season a good round number, just an even number, 300 on the season run
Oh,
differential for the A's. You want the over or the under? I'm writing it right here on my little dry erase. It'll be here all year long. We'll match them up every time we talk about baseball. You want the
I
over? Me and you for a steak dinner. You get to pick it. You want the over or the under? 300.
I would have to say it's over 300, and the only reason I say it's already 127 now, and we're even a third of the way.
That's
So
right. I know it. All right. Badlands takes the over 300 run differential for the A's, and I've got the under. So now I'm an A's fan because I want my steak from Folks Folly over there in Memphis, Tennessee, right near you. It's my favorite steakhouse over in the Delta. And if you win, you can pick your steakhouse, but if it goes over, but that'll give us something to keep up with the A's because there's got to be something to keep us interested in the A's. That's about all I can come up with. Is that fair to you?
oh yeah, that's fair. But back on a serious note here for a second here, they just don't have anything. They've got a lot of young guys that I think really haven't found their groove yet. They're still trying to figure out how to play as a team and all of that. Maybe the move to Vegas will help them, but they said that's not even going to be done till 2025, even if it does get done. Um, but definitely go ahead and fade the A's right now for sure. Fade them, fade them, fade them. Whatever their win total is, it'd probably be a good idea to take under because they're just not going to be winners much this year.
All right. Speaking of win totals, have you still got that information in front of you?
Yeah, I think I got it here.
All right. Let me throw some teams at you, and I want you to give me their updated win total. Okay.
All right.
Tampa Bay Rays currently 29-9, best record in baseball. Is it over 100?
Tampa Bay is 89.5.
Wow. So what that tells you is that Vegas is expecting some reversion to the mean because they're on pace to win 120 games. but well, no, not that many. They're on, they're on pace to win
100.
98 games.
100.
Okay, and they're expecting a little reversion to the mean that maybe this Rays hot start can't hold up. Yankees 21-17. I think they're started out the season at 94.5. What's their updated win total?
94.5.
Staying right on it. I got the under 94.5 on the Yankees, and it looks like they're right on pace for something like that. And I also have the Yankees, a ticket on the Yankees not to make the playoffs at 3-1. They're currently dead last in the AL East, 8 games behind the Rays. But what a competitive division the AL East is. Every team over 500, including the Yankees dead last at 21-17. While the Yankees dead last at 21-17 in the AL East, that would be leading the AL Central because the Twins are only 20-17.
Oh,
Now I want to go down to my White Sox in the AL Central. White Sox, what's their win total?
Chicago White Sox is over under 83.5.
My God, that's high. They got 13 wins. Give me the under on those putrid White Sox. Where can I get on this? Where are you getting this information? Is this on DraftKings? Can I go log in and get on DraftKings and bet that under right now or no?
So this is Vegas Insider. This is a news source that I use just to do it. But I'm going to tell you, if you can get this one, this would be interesting. They've got Baltimore sitting at 76.5. Over under win total 76.5. I would jump on the over on that if you can find that on DraftKings or anywhere else. I think they're probably the second or third best team in all of Major League Baseball right now. So I would definitely jump on that.
So I agree with you on the over with Baltimore. I agree with you. We should have talked. I should have gave them a shout out for an honorable mention. They would be leading that division if it wasn't for the Rays' hot start. They played the Braves tooth and nail down in Atlanta in a series last week, and I don't think they're going to fade. I don't think they're like the Pirates. I don't think they're a story like that where they're just going to run out of gas. I think they're going to be in it for the whole year. I agree with you. I'll take the over 76.5 on the Orioles. I want that 100. My God. What did you say it was on the White Sox? One more time. 80 something?
83.5.
I can't get out. If I can find that, I'm gonna go down to one of these check cashing places and get me a quick loan. While I'm waiting on the refinance of my house to go through to get whatever I can on this White Sox under. So anyway, if you can find 83.5 out there, podcast listeners, on the White Sox updated season win total, back the truck up. This is a 10-unit play. I know I say don't bet more than 2 units. This is a 10-unit play on the White Sox. All right, staying in AL in the American League. Well, let's go to those Athletics. 8-30 on the year. What's their win total? 24?
59.5.
Oh man! Oh man! Oh man!
You take the under.
You have to back up 2 trucks.
You take the under.
They're not going to get close to that, are they?
No.
How could they?
We're already
awful. All right.
And they've only got 8 wins.
All right, this is mine and your homework assignment between this week and next week on the podcast. But this is why we ask you to follow our Twitter handles at Badlands Brandon, at Big Daddy C1000, and then our show Twitter handle is at W Streak Weekly. Follow that at W Streak Weekly. I'm going to try to find out where in Tennessee that we can get down on these updated season win totals. So we've got some winners already here that we want to play. We want to play the Athletics under 59.5. We want to play the White Sox under 83. And we want to play the Orioles over, what was that, 76.5?
76.5.
Yes. That's my three plays. Anything else in the American League you jump out at you?
Yeah.
94.5, that was hard.
Houston,
that was hard to play.
Houston 97.5. I like the under.
Yeah, after horrible stuff. I mean, for a win total like that, let's go under 97.5 Houston. All right, now over to the National League. The Braves was the biggest one. Braves and Dodgers were the biggest two in the National League. I think the Braves started out at 96. Where they got them right now?
Atlanta sits at 96.5.
All right, ticked up a half point on this hot start. Dodgers were somewhere around 96 to start the season. What do you got there?
96.5.
Okay, so not much change in the two big favorites. Pirates on their hot start, 21-17. Is that one over 60?
67.5.
That's too tough to call there. That seems about right on them. All right, now my Cubs. I bet them if the season started, I think it was over 82 wins. What are they at?
76.5.
Okay, I can get some value. I can double down on my Cubs and say they're going to come out of this slow start and pick up some steam in the summer. That's another one. I'll take you get a little value there. Take the over 76.5 on the Cubs. They got a decent pitching staff. They just got to get the offense going. All right, that's all. That's all my questions for the NL. What jumps out to you looking down the line there at the NL?
San Diego, they still got them at 93.5. Give me the under.
Okay, yeah, sluggish start for San Diego. What about Cardinals? What do they got them?
88.5.
Oh yeah, back up the truck again. Here's another one. So we got to find these. So let's be sure to follow the Twitter handle for our show at W Streak Weekly. And when I find them and get the available odds and available numbers on those, I will be sure to post what we are playing, what I'm playing on behalf of the program. I put my plays on our site at W Streak Weekly, or our Twitter handle at W Streak Weekly. Badlands Brandon, our contributor and our show's producer at Badlands Brandon, he'll post his plays there, and then at Big Daddy C1000, Big Daddy C's out there fighting the fight, sweating the sweat, mowing the yards in the Mid-South. This is his busy time of year. He's got a lawn service business. He's kind of in and out, hit or miss with us during the summer. But when he puts his plays in, he'll put them up on at Big Daddy C1000. So that's our good, bad, and ugly segment. The good, the Braves, and the Rays, 25-12, 29-9, with an honorable mention to the Pirates, 21-17 to start out the season. The bad, the Cardinals, dead last in the NL Central at 13-25, and the ugly, the A's, 8-30 with a -127 run differential. We're going to grab a quick break, and we will come back to go through the NBA playoffs. You have caught Winning Streak Weekly. Don't go anywhere. Hey, yo, business owners, need an inflation buster? Okay, let's get after the ridiculous credit card processing fees you are paying. Call me, Jason Nall, your Advanced Merchant Services local agent. I help businesses retain a higher percentage of each and every sale. Call 423-424-8002. That's 423-424-8002. Call AMS. Call Jason Nall. Welcome back. It is Winning Streak Weekly. We're now on our third podcast. I'm your host, Jason Nall. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts for sure. We're also on 101.3 The Buzz every Thursday during drive time. This is the former Nall or Nothing program to our radio listeners. Now we've rebranded, refreshed, recharged, and we're coming back at you with a new program name. A lot of the same contributors, a lot of the same focus on sports betting in Winning Streak Weekly, where we look just to start that next winning streak. Let's hope we can get it going with some of these NBA plays. We are now, Badlands, in round two. Let's start with the Miami Heat, New York Knicks. series 3-2 Miami. The Knicks were able to claw back and get a win last night to cut it to a 1-game deficit, but they still got to win both games left in the series to beat the Heat and to kill the Dragon, which is Jimmy Butler. Do the Knicks have any chance of doing such thing?
No, I don't think so. I think that win they picked up last night in New York is probably going to be it for them. I think once they get back down to South Beach and get back in front of the home crowd, I think that's just going to ignite them. I think they wanted to win it. You want to win it anytime you can, but it's always special when you can win it in front of your home crowd. And I think with them being back at South Beach for the next two, I don't think there's any way that Miami loses this series, or hell, at least I hope there's not. But I think Jimmy Butler is still playing good. Bam Adebayo is still playing really good. Everybody's contributing how they should be. I think this is definitely Miami's series, and hopefully they can get it taken care of, get some rest before they've got to go up either against the Sixers or the Celtics.
Yeah, so let's look down here. Game 6 in Miami. Miami, a solid 5-point favorite. That game goes Friday night, 7:30 Eastern. Yeah, I mean, it would be a pretty big upset for the Knicks to win that game in Miami. If they do somehow win that game in Miami, all bets are off because you'd want to have that home team in Game 7. So interesting watch there in the East between the Knicks and the Heat. Celtics 76ers. 76ers lead the series 3-2. It came down to they were trailing the series 2-1 Sunday night. James Harden steps up and makes a huge three, and the 76ers take the lead and then hold off a last possession from Boston to tie the series 2-2. And what did they do after that? They were on the brink of elimination. They were about to go down 3-1 to the Celtics. Harden hits that shot inside of 10 seconds, and they hold off Boston on their offensive series to try to win it there. Then they go to the Garden and get a second win in this series in Boston on Tuesday night. Win by double digits in Boston. Now Sixers can close it out at home, but not so fast. Vegas says Boston a 2.5-point favorite on the road in Philadelphia, and Boston would be a favorite in Game 7 back in the Garden. That tells me, as much as I would like for this series to be over, as I have the 76ers on a ticket to win the Eastern Conference, and I bet before the season, Badlands, it looks like Vegas is saying, not so fast, my friend. Boston ain't done.
This is, and we talked about this when we did our playoff or preview show for the NBA playoffs. Everybody liked Boston, their loaded roster and everything else, but I'm going to tell you somebody that's impressed me for this Philadelphia squad has been Tyrese Maxey. His last game, Tyrese Maxey scored 30. He was 6 of 12 from behind the arc. He looked really good. He added the 30 points along with Harden's 17 and Embiid's 33. So with that all being said, I mean, I'm not going to, just sit and say that Vegas was wrong, that, they got it wrong. But I think this is a Philadelphia team that's got a legitimate shot at closing this thing out tonight. Even though, Vegas says that, Boston's a 2-point favorite, I'll go ahead and tell you my pick now. Give me the 76ers at home catching the 2. I mean, this is a no-brainer for me.
Well, I hope you're right. And this game goes tonight, so we want to give you some actionable plays here. I would love to hedge this thing because I do think the winner of this series is going to beat the Heat. Sorry, Badlands, or the Knicks, but I really can't hedge it with the 76ers being the underdog at home. So this would be the spot to hedge where I could hedge my bet a little bit and take the Celtics, but I hate to take them as a 2.5-point favorite, and I certainly hate to take them on the money line laying 145. It's going to cut too much into my profits, so no real play there for me. So we're going to go with Badlands play here. Badlands likes the 76ers, and he'll take that 2.5 points at home in game 6 now, where the 76ers look to close out the Celtics. 76ers plus 2.5 at home, plus 115 on the money line. I'm pulling for you, Badlands. I'm pulling for you on that one.
Well, hold the
Second game tonight.
phone here for a second.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I didn't tell you the second part of this, so give me the 2, and I'm also going to put a player prop in there that say that Embiid, I just looked at it, has to go over 35 points tonight. Give me the over in that one. I'm going to put a player prop in there and parlay it with.
All right, hang on. Run that prayer. You're going to give me that whole breakdown again. One more time. What's the bet?
Parlay. I'm going to give you a parlay and say that Philadelphia catches the 2, and also that Embiid goes over 35 points tonight.
Woo, 35 points. Goodness gravy. Okay, well, I think you're probably right. If the 76ers are going to win, Embiid needs to go off. All right, so that would be a same game parlay. You have to opt in on those on your betting apps, DraftKings and whatever. You opt in on what's called a same game parlay, and then you can take a side of what he's saying here with Philadelphia plus the 2.5 points and parlay that with a player prop, and he likes Embiid over 35. Good God, that's a lot. Are you sure it's that high? Let me go check.
That's what
Embiid. I'll tell you, you're going to get a bargain. Embiid's over 29.5 tonight. 29.5 on DraftKings anyway. So you can parlay. Golly, they got that juiced. Over 29.5 at minus 130.
So what you're telling me is,
Parlaying it. So that's,
I got to make that drive across state line, but then
that's true. Badlands lives over in northern Mississippi, northeast Mississippi, northwest Mississippi. And he has to make it, what is it, about a 20-minute drive across state lines?
15.
15 minutes. He crosses over into God's country, the promised land, Tennessee, and then he can log in on his sports betting apps and make his play. So yeah, drive over and get that same game parlay. But I just saved you 6 points almost, 5.5 points. On DraftKings Embiid, 29.5 point total. All right. The second game this evening, Thursday, is going to be between Denver and Phoenix. Denver with a 3-2 lead in this series. Now the game has swung back to Phoenix. Phoenix not a huge favorite here. Phoenix is just a 3-point favorite in this game, which is a little bit surprising to me because the home teams have fared so well, and Phoenix was the favorite to win the West going in. And it's a must-win situation. You only have to lay 3 with the Phoenix over under 226. Another one, Badlands. Another one where I'm not going to play because my preseason bet on the Nuggets to win the West is alive and well. I'm just pulling for the Nuggets, so you're going to have to make the pick on this game as well. Phoenix -3 over under 226.
I like this one right here because I think there's got to be a game 7 somewhere tied up in here. And I think this is the series that's going to be your game 7 series. I think Phoenix finds a way to get it done in the home crowd tonight. I think Booker's going to have an absolute monster of a game. I think they'll have that Phoenix crowd roaring behind them. So give me the over to, what'd you say, 226?
Yeah.
Yeah, give me the over.
You want that? Okay, I like your idea of Phoenix as well. Maybe laying the 3. Because I agree with you. There's got to be a game 7 somewhere. And this looks like it might be a game 7 to me. Between arguably the 2 best teams in the West, but we got to argue because these Lakers and these Warriors. Well, the Warriors are your defending champion, and the Lakers are playing like they haven't played since the COVID bubble. So here we sit with the Lakers up 3-2 over the Warriors. I know your television executives would love to see this one go 7 games. But to do that, the Warriors are going to have to win as a small underdog, just 2 points Friday night on the road at LA, over under 221.5. Watch this game last night. I told you I freaking a little pizza money on the Lakers at 3-1 on the money line. I just thought that was too good to be true, and it was too good to be true because it didn't happen. Golden State won fairly easily. Can Golden State, as a small underdog, go win in LA and take this to Game 7 back in Golden State, Badlands?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think there's any question they can. But I was talking to you before the show, and this is just my personal belief from what I see when I'm watching the games and everything. So take it for what it's worth to all the listeners out there. Golden State is a shooting team. I don't know why in the first couple of games they were trying to feed it down low and try to pound the paint and do all that. I mean, that's just not their bread and butter. You've got the greatest shooter of all, or one of the greatest shooters of all time, in Steph Curry. So what they did last night,
right? He's the greatest.
And they need to set up the ball screens, let him roll off the ball screens. Get him. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a super great open look. It's just got to be an open look. And 90% of the time he's going to drain it. And I think that's what they did last night. And I was listening to where they have the huddle where you can hear the coach and everything, that they do. And that's exactly what the coach said. He said, why are we, if you're open, shoot it. Like, let's don't sit here and try to feed it down low and do all this fancy behind the back Euro step, all that. Let's just shoot it. If we're open, let's shoot it. And that's exactly what they did. And it paid off for them. So I think that's going to be probably the game plan going into Crypto.com arena tonight or tomorrow night.
Friday night.
Is just go in there and find the ball screens, give the open looks to people, because every time they rolled off one and had a good look, they drained them last night. And I think that's what they're going to have to do to win.
Yeah, that line a little bit low. As put it in perspective, Golden State was an 8-point favorite last night at home to extend the series and not be closed out. Now the Lakers just a 2-point favorite at home. Something smells rotten in Denmark. I think these shooters may be able to take their show on the road. That said, Golden State had a horrid road record in the regular season. So if you're an LA backer, you better hope they close it out right here at home in LA in Game 6, because Golden State struggled on the road in the regular season, but they were hell on wheels at home, and you don't want to see LA go back to Golden State. Watched that whole game last night, Game 5 it was, and I like most of the time when I watch Golden State, I don't understand how they ever lose. They just shoot so good. And you think of the big three, Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, but they built upon that three with the Poole party and Jordan Poole, and then Wiggins. They've got 5 real shooters out there, and it's a real problem. You can't defend everybody. You can't double Curry and have everybody else covered. So, can those shooters shoot on the road? We will see on Friday night. One more time with our Twitter handles. It's important because we're a weekly program, but as you know, the plays go every single day, fast and furious with games, and we're sure to post our best plays where we try to start and maintain our winning streaks on our Twitter handles. Let's start with our producer and contributor, Badlands Brandon. He's at Badlands Brandon. And then our show Twitter handle, where I post my plays, is at W Streak Weekly. So like and subscribe and follow those Twitter handles, and you will see our plays each and every day that we put out there. And as always, our plays are free because that's what they're worth. We want to be your starting point in sports gambling, give you some things to think about, but for sure, do your own research and stay within your means. For Badlands Brandon, I'm your host, Jason Nall. It has been our pleasure to be with you again on our 3rd installment of the Winning Streak Weekly podcast, and it's great to be with our listeners on 101.3 The Buzz. Until next time, we are out of here.
I said, united we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. United we stand, in God we trust. There is no fear. There is no fear.